I'm really grateful. NatalCon, thank you so much for having me. This is incredible to be with you guys today. And a little bit about me. My name is Michael Seifert. I am the CEO of a few different companies, one of which is EveryLife, the company you just saw. And we created that company with a simple mission to celebrate the miracle of life. And ultimately, we believe that some of you in this room are called to do that through the avenue of politics. Some of you are called to do that, celebrate the miracle of life, through the political arena. Others of you are called to do it purely as a parent. Others of you are called to do it in your churches. No matter what sphere of influence you're in society, in your communities, or broadly in our country, each of us, I believe, are here drawn with a shared vision to celebrate the miracle of life. For us, that call is in the marketplace. That is what I'm passionate about. I believe ultimately that corporate America has the ability to shift the culture toward one that celebrates life. And so in everything we do as a company, across all of our companies, we want that mission to be paramount. Otherwise, what the heck is it for? If I'm not actually championing the future of our country and the families that make this nation so special and that ultimately power the marketplace, why would I even go about this? It would be a fleeting endeavor if I didn't have a legacy building mentality around what we're building today. That's why we do what we do. We want to change the country through the power of the marketplace. And thankfully, by the grace of God, we've been very successful to date. We launched that company, for example, not even 2 years ago. And now it is the fastest growing diaper company actually in the entire world. And not only have we grown exponentially here in the United States, we're actually launching in South Korea in partnership with the Samsung family in 2 months. And you might say, South Korea has the lowest birth rate in the world. Why are you launching a baby brand in South Korea? Here's exactly why. I'm betting on the future of South Korea, and I'm betting that our brand can have a cultural impact such that we can actually help save the population of Korea, and then I get to ride the upside. Our team gets to actually equip the beautiful families of South Korea with the products they need to champion the growing family unit in that nation. So the Samsung family called us after we ran a big ad campaign last year that got Elon Musk's attention, and the Samsung family said, we have a population crisis issue here in South Korea, and we want EveryLife's help. We saw a need, we're going to fill it. And by the grace of God, it's working, day in, day out. We saw a lot of companies after the overturning of Roe v. Wade say that they were going to put money toward any of their employees, $4,500 if their employee wanted to travel to get an abortion. The company would pay for that employee's travel to go get that abortion. I think that's sickening. I also think they did it under the ruse of women's health, when in reality, we all know in this room why they did it. They did it because they want you to be a cog in the wheel. And they're afraid that you taking time to actually celebrate your family unit would be a hurt to their productivity. So what did we do? We did the opposite. We instituted the baby bonus at our company. We said that for any of our employees that have a baby or adopt, we're going to give you $5,000 after taxes just as a free gift and celebrate you being able to advance your family unit. I believe firmly that strong families build a strong nation. Strong families build a strong company, and that's how we want to live out our lives in the marketplace to the betterment of our overall society. Well, thank you. I'll say this. I was actually going to talk about a rather academic topic today. I was going to talk about the political and economic benefits of a pro-family culture. And I woke up this morning, and I am a firm believer in Christ. He is my Lord and Savior, and I was in prayer this morning. And actually had a coffee with one of our board members that lives here in Austin. I'm from South Florida, but really glad to be in town here. Austin's a wonderful city. And as we were talking and I was spending time in prayer this morning, something stood out to me, which is that I wanted to go deeper than politics and economics. I actually want to touch on the heart of all of this, which I believe has to start in culture. If we have a culture that does not prioritize family, nothing else matters at the end of the day. So I'm going to spend a few minutes and I'm going to talk to you about how we can build a culture in our country first, in the United States of America, that celebrates family. Sound good? Let's go. That's awesome. I want to say this first. Part of this is prickly. Anything worth pursuing costs us something. So we can all sit in this room and say, we want a pro-family culture. We believe we should have it. Isn't that obvious? We hear incredible speeches like you just gave. Well done, sir. I was really inspired by that. And we see the data. We're like, why wouldn't you want a pro-family culture? It's good for everything. It's because it costs us something. And culture generally in our country today does not like pursuing anything that really costs us anything. Here's what pursuing a pro-family culture costs us. It costs us yourself. In order to build a pro-family culture, we have to rid ourselves of every bit of selfishness. Here's what I mean. If you ask the average American today, why are you married? Or what is the goal of marriage? You'd probably get answers like to be happy, to find the one, to be in love. The reality is, I've been married 8 years. I'm in no way, shape, or form an expert. Not even close. There are many other veterans in this room that have done it far longer than I have. Kudos to you. But in 8 years, I have learned this. The goal of marriage is not happiness. It's not fulfillment. It's not personal warm and fuzzies. That's not the goal of marriage. My daily goal in marriage is to lay my life down. That's it. My goal in marriage is to lay my life down for the betterment of my other half. Once we got married, we became one flesh. We're not two separate people anymore with two separate ambitions, and we'll hope they cross over at times. My marriage is about making sure that I am living every day in sacrificial love to someone I have chosen forever. And then she, hopefully, God willing, does the same for me. It's an inherently selfless endeavor, marriage. What's the goal of parenthood? It's not actually just to create kind of a cultural norm and make sure that you're keeping up with the Joneses and that you can fill in the gaps in your life resume and make sure that you're sending your kids to a good college one day and you're keeping up with your friends in your neighborhood that are also having kids and you can live the American dream. That's not the goal of parenthood. The goal of parenthood is to lay myself down for a future generation such that my life would lead to the betterment of someone else that I have direct responsibility and care for. That's the goal of parenthood. It's not for my own personal fulfillment. In fact, parenthood every day tests my selfishness. In every shape, form, or fashion, it tests my selfishness. That's what makes it worth pursuing. What's the goal of a career? I'm actually the youngest publicly traded CEO in the world. I have ran hard. Oh, well, thank you, but I'm actually going to stress the non-importance of that here in a moment. I've achieved, by the grace of God, an overwhelming amount of business success at a young age. I'm not 30 yet. I'm still learning the ropes, but I've ran hard in my teens and my 20s to create a lot of business endeavors that have proved fruitful. At the end of the day, why? Why does that even matter? It doesn't matter for my net worth, that's fleeting. I can't carry a U-Haul behind the hearse. It doesn't really matter for my own status. Somebody's always richer. Somebody's always more successful. So that's a never-ending game of competition. It doesn't really matter for my 401k or anything like that, or my own self-confidence. In fact, the farther along I go on this journey, the more I realize how insecure I really am. And so if it's just a competition journey with myself to prove it, like I'll never be there. The reason I work so hard day in and day out, the reason I have 80-hour weeks and we grind and we build solutions is because on Saturday morning when I was skateboarding on a business call, I was visiting my parents and they were watching after our sweet little daughter. She's 2.5 years old. Her name is Lily. And I was skateboarding down the road and I was on the business call and I saw my daughter run up to me like 500 yards down the road. My mom said, "Look, there's Daddy." So I'm skateboarding back and I'm on a pretty intense business call. And I see her start to run to me and I just said, I got to call you back. I hung up and I rushed toward her. And as she ran up to me, it all kind of hit. Like, this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I work so hard. All the other stuff, it doesn't matter. It's her. I see it in her eyes as she looks at me. That's why I do what I do. But there's so much I have to give up in order to feel that moment right there, that sense of purpose. So number one, how do we create a culture that values family? You have to die to yourself, day in and day out. You have to live an example in your own family that's not about you. It's actually about the betterment of the people that God has trusted you to be in relationship with. That's totally countercultural. Think about what our culture says today. Career advancement above all else, right? Education advancement above all else. By the way, some of these things can be great. It's great to advance in your career. It's great to get a good education. If that's what God's calling you to do, go after it. But why are you doing it? Think about what our culture celebrates today, the girl boss mentality. You don't need any man, the 4B movement. Young men, go get fit and healthy and go kill it in the gym, but don't worry about marriage till you're 45. Like, is that really the culture we want to celebrate? Of course not. The way we build a pro-family culture is by first dying to ourselves, recognizing that my life is not my own. As I mentioned, I'm a believer in Christ. And Paul actually talks in the New Testament about how once I'm married, my body's not even my own anymore. So let's talk about health for a second. A way we create a pro-family culture is even in these movements that we love, like the Make America Healthy Again movement. I love it. Our diapers and the products we sell, they're very clean ingredients. We focus a lot on a non-toxic culture. I love all of that. But is your health for you, or is your health for the next generation? I'm gonna call some people out. I got people that I respect deeply, like Paul Saladino or Brian Johnson or some of these Andrew Huberman health hacker types. Love those guys. Here's the problem. In many cases, they're in their 40s, they're not married, and they don't even talk about it. It'd be one thing if they were saying, I'm trying. They're not. Their whole advancement of the health movement is to purify their own body, and that's it. With no regard for, I'm healthy so that I can run with my daughter when I'm 70 years old. Your health is not about you. If it is, guess what? You're gonna die one day. And then what was it all for? And much to Brian Johnson's avail, you're never gonna live forever. There's two things certain in life, death and taxes. I'm trying to avoid the second one, and we're trying to change that, and let's hope we get some politicians that'll make the second one a little less of a reality. But death and taxes are a reality. You will die one day. So make sure your health's not about you. It's about the next generation. That's how we create a pro-family culture. We're actually running a big ad campaign with a marketplace we own this summer that talks about this very thing. Your health is not about you. We love healthy products. We love Make America Healthy Again. We love this movement to purify our households of any sort of toxins and get the fluoride out of the water and all of that. You're not gonna find a bigger junkie on those things than myself. And yet, if it's just for me, it doesn't matter. And all I'm doing is contributing to a selfish cultural noise. How do we create a pro-family culture? I have to recognize that true wealth is in generational impact. If I want to create a pro-family culture, I have to recognize that wealth is in those moments that I described earlier when I see my daughter run to me. I have to recognize that wealth is in the offspring I create and the generational blessing I get to provide for. Some of the best parents I've ever met in my entire life were not physically, monetarily wealthy people, and yet they had kids that loved and respected them and looked up to them. Why? Because they recognized that your role as a parent is not just to provide. Your role as a parent is actually to empower the next generation with the tools they need to succeed, the life lessons, the wisdom. Wisdom's finer than gold. This is truer than time itself. Real wealth is in a generational impact I get to pass on to my kids, and it looks a whole lot more like wisdom than it does just money. Ultimately, the most thrilling adventure you could ever go on is parenthood and family building. There's nothing better, nothing better. I've seen the world, I've seen the riches. None of it compares to the beauty in having a child, in having a wife that respects you, in adoption. By the way, sometimes there are people in this room and rooms like it that say, I love this, I actually want this, but I can't achieve it for X reasons. Either A, I haven't found that person yet that I want to run alongside, or B, we tried to have kids, it didn't work. Recognize that even if that's your story, that doesn't mean you can't be a parent of sorts or a mentor of sorts to a next generation and champion this message along. Of course, it starts in your own household, but even if you don't have a family right now, that doesn't mean you can't be a part of embracing a pro-family culture. What are you promoting on social media? How are you celebrating this? Are you helping other parents and your communities and kids in need? Adoption's an incredible blessing and a gift. Are we pursuing that in our own lives if natural birth is not an option? So I'll say this. I think ultimately there's one other piece that in rooms like this, I'd imagine a lot of you will agree with, but culturally it's pretty unpopular. If there's not an objective sense of morality that ties our value for family at the end of the day, it's very hard to create a pro-family culture. And what I mean by that is if you go to somebody on the street and you say, we should make more babies, we should have more children, we should embrace a family culture, strong families make a strong nation, the question inevitably that they can and should ask is why? And unless you have some sort of objective morality that's pinning that belief like a root, you don't have a great answer. There's an economic answer, there's a political answer, there's society benefits, there's quality of life benefits to having more, but there's a deeper philosophical concept that will actually shift culture. I believe that's God. I believe firmly it's God. Children are a blessing, a heritage from the Lord. Offspring is a blessing. If I don't have a real sense of deeper life purpose and a set of value systems that I want to give to the next generation, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm kind of spending my life coming up with philosophical principles for why this matters without a real deeply rooted objective truth. I want to say this last, and then I want to get into some good news, and I'll land the plane. There was a U.S. News survey done in the early 2000s that talked about the greatest fear of parents and the greatest fear of kids. They asked parents, what's your greatest fear? Parents was that I will never be able to pass my value system on to the next generation, that I won't be able to communicate my value system to my kids, that I'll mess them up. And the greatest fear of children was that they'll never discover their life purpose. I believe that those two answers are an incredible view into how we can create a solution. Number one, parents, there's no perfect moment when you're going to be ready for the next generation and to have future kids. And we have to tell that to society. The birth rate is plummeting because the age we're having kids is going up and up and up and up and up. And in my home state of California, where I was originally from, it's like 31 years old now. People are saying, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. I got to have all these things ready. And I think at the root of that, it's actually fear. It's that I'm not going to be able to produce the type of parenthood that I want to be able to pass on to my kids. I think for many people, that's the root. They'll come up with other reasons. I want a career advancement. I want more money. I want whatever. But I think at the heart of it is actually that I'm afraid I would suck at this parenting thing. We all do. That doesn't mean you don't do it. I think we have to embrace that message. And for teenagers that are growing up, we have to train them up in the way they should go. They're hungering for deeper life purpose. And when we can emulate that and model that through the family unit, as beautifully imperfect as it is at times, I believe we're going to be able to work between the younger generation and the older generation at creating a culture that actually values family. Here's the good news. It's already happening. This conference is testament to that. These types of rooms weren't necessarily happening 20 and 30 years ago. You didn't have the wealthiest man in the world talking about this as his primary issue 20 and 30 years ago. You didn't have churches hosting similar conferences talking about the importance of the family unit 20 or 30 years ago. You didn't have billions of dollars of investment from countries trying to solve this very issue 20 or 30 years ago. We are on an upward trajectory that's incredibly exciting. Here's another good piece of news. If you look at the younger generation today, especially Gen Z men, they want this more than anything else. I'm the youngest year of millennial. I'm right at the cutoff between millennial and Gen Z. I can tell you that my friends want what we're talking about so badly. In fact, I had drinks with a guy probably 3 years ago who was living like, God bless him, kind of a degenerate lifestyle and was really struggling for life purpose, and he was going through it, and we're sitting, and he's a very conservative guy, very involved in politics, had really reached the upper echelons of the political world, done a phenomenal job in his own career. But we're sitting there one night, and he says, you know, like, I just feel empty. I feel like this isn't doing it for me. And I feel like my life doesn't have meaning. I feel like I have this deep hunger that I've only recently been able to put words to, and it's for legacy, it's for purpose, it's for meaning. And he told me recently, I actually found God. I'm dating this girl who I want to get married to, and like, I really want to have kids. This is not a guy who I ever would have thought would have uttered those words. And here he is telling me that. And I've had dozens of conversations that are similar over the past few years. There's this cultural wave happening. And for the older folks in the room, it's on you to usher that in. Train them up. Don't require perfection. Help guide them into that truth. For the younger generation, be a part of leading that voice for change. Folks do not want the Taylor Swift sort of role model of the world anymore. It looks and feels vain and vapid and empty. Folks are wanting positive role models. We were just talking about this table earlier. They want generational role models that'll show what it's like to embrace the family unit. We want to make families cool again. And it's happening. We're seeing a young generation that's hungering for it. They just need to know what it looks like in practice. And that's on us for this room to emulate, showcase, to lead the example on. I believe ultimately our nation will be saved. The West more broadly will be saved when we create a culture that values family. And there will be numerous political and economic benefits associated with it. There's going to be quality of life benefits associated with it. Civilizational benefits. You're going to save literally countries. That's the situation South Korea, Italy, Greece, these other nation states are in. But let's not hit rock bottom as the U.S. until we have to realize that that's the pursuit we need to be running after. I'll finish with this. The last thing I will say is within your sphere of influence, the way to create a culture that values the family unit is take whatever gifts God has given you, whether that's in business, politics, homemaking, church community building, leadership, discipleship, whatever gifts God has given you. Ask yourself daily, how can I actually help create a culture of life? For us, that look like the marketplace. Any area we can find the need to create solutions that will lead to a marketplace reform that celebrates the beauty of family, that's our mission. That's what we're going to continue pursuing. What is it for you? I would ask that question really intentionally today. What is the thing that you can do in your own family, in your own life, in your own sphere of influence that in your own backyard will create a culture of life? I'll end with this quote. I think it was Mother Teresa that originally said it, but I actually think she got it from somewhere else. If you want to change the world, start by loving your family. If you want to change a country, it has to start in your own backyard. It really should go, I want to change my backyard. Then I want to change my city. Then I want to change my county. Then I want to change my state. Then I want to change my country. The way we view things in our modern culture today is it's all about the president. Whoever the president is can save us. I'm like, no. Far off. It's not even what our founders had envisioned. It starts local. Start in your own backyard. How can I, with the gifts that God has given me, celebrate the moment of family? Because more than anything else I've said today, I want other dads and moms to feel what I felt skateboarding told my daughter on Saturday. She's the reason I do everything I do, and she's the person and my family and our new daughter to come in September. Thank you. We're trying to live out the message, you know what I mean? We got to make more babies. They're the reason that we do all that we do. And I want more people to experience that blessing. It gives your life a level of deeper purpose and meaning that I can only try to articulate. So, Godspeed, onward and upward. We're going to create a culture that celebrates family, and I believe that that will be one of the instrumental elements to saving the West. Sound good? Let's go. Awesome. NatalCon, thank you so much for hosting me. Really appreciate you all. Luke, thank you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday.